questions to the audience to check if this is the right audience. So first one is like, please raise your hands if you not hold crypto. Okay, as expected. Second question, the more important question: are you feel sometimes that it's a bit risky to hold crypto? Please raise your hands if this is the case. Okay, I see some people feeling it what I feel too. So welcome. My name is Antonio. That's Adi. Together we are A43, and for the people who hold crypto and as well feel like a bit risky, welcome to the ship, because that is where we are at the moment. We are so we are all interested in the crypto space, and we are all shipping in the same boat. And I have to say, in the last years, the water was a bit volatile. Looking to the market cap, looking into the TVLs, or as well as Peter mentioned, the complete hex. I don't know where I feel sometimes a bit insecure of holding the crypto as well, looking now into the new regulatories. So that's what the next 15 minutes are about. It's like how we can handle risk in this environment. And then as we see our ship here, it's like on the one side we have the waves. On the other sides we have as well our icebergs. We call it riskbergs. We will come later to this. And how we're going to go into the topic. So we're going to tackle the topic like in three acts. The first act is more about how we're going to, why do we need this? So what's the context? Then I will hand over later to my colleague Adi to describe it's like how we want to tackle this, to understand which kind of risk we have, and as well what's important to understand how we control the risks. And last but not least, because we are all in one ship, how we're going to collaborate in future, and we need your help. And as well, if you're not in stormy waters, as you can see here, and we are in flat waters, we have as well our icebergs here. So actually it's a quite risky business where we are in an uncertain business. And looking only into the last news, we just been down some kind of a snapshot of the last news. And rather I am in the DeFi space, I like tackling stuff like bridge hacks, or what Peter said, the Mt. Gox, or I have issues with my wallet. Funds are kind of like blocked from a staking pool where I am in, or maybe in the next 2 years, maybe in Europe, the MiCA and the DORA regulation will have place. What does it mean for me? And as well, not only me, but as well like the organizations, the crypto native companies are as well like feel the risk as well. And that is where we want to go in. So besides of us who are like trying to maneuver through this water and have a look on the icebergs, it's like we just want to survive, and we want to build as well something what is more sustainable, and where we are all like more risk advice on it. On the other hand, we have as well the Munich Rees here who want to be as well into the game and need support, and as well see an opportunity on the one side, but on the other side they see a lot of risks. And they maybe want to come to us into our boat, but at the end they are like, I don't know what's going to happen. Do I need to go to the jail because I'm an Ethereum developer or not? But that is where we are at the moment, and that's our goal, to understand like what are the risks and actually how we can handle the risks.
So before we go on to the next slide. Unfortunately, I can't move there because there's only one microphone.
Should I?
Yes, please. Thank you. So before we start the next slide, we just kicked off this project actually, and it's thanks a lot as well to At-Risk to provide us a grant for kicking off this project. So as you may know, there are a number of tools in the market, products, tools that help you assess and even transfer some of this risk in DeFi, right? But these tools are mainly focused on the technical part, or also on the financial part. So what we are hoping to do is something that's a bit more holistic, right? So we want to create a holistic open source framework for organizations to be able to manage their risks and controls, right? So these should cover not just technical and financial risks, but also the non-financial ones. For example, like reputation risk or risk of your resources or your devs or people in your community. So that's the first part. So it's something like you can think of like a generic risk framework, right? But that then brings us to our second point. So generic risk frameworks are good. They're like a foundation, but they're not enough. And that's because when you have different organizations and different contexts, the weightings of those risks, the profiles of those risks are different, right? So you might have a group of applications or protocols that they are very similar and do similar things together. Like they can be liquidity providers, for example. So they might have weightings that are more similar than like a gaming protocol on DeFi. And then our last goal is that we want to contribute to growing the risk and controls community in DeFi across protocols and across network. That's really important for us because I think there's a lot of, like Antonio showed, there was lots of stuff happening, lots of hacks, all of this stuff. But I think if we can work together and see how we can manage those risks and control those risks, I think that will help make the boat a bit safer. So following that, the main driver for us, the main question that we're trying to answer is how do we divide and share risk in DeFi, right? So for that, we need to understand what those risks are and to also be able to quantify and qualify those risks, right? So for example, by being able to see all of the different types of risks that certain organizations face, we can also try to start to understand how the risks correlate to each other, and then what kind of controls can we implement that cover maybe just one risk or on multiple levels of risk, right? In addition to that, so we also want to be able to associate risk metrics to this risk in an easy way, right? So this is draft, by the way. So from the risk taxonomy or the risk architecture, where we outline, say, kind of like high-level risks, then go down to their subtypes, right? We want to be able to then link those risks with the Web3 layers, right? So maybe some of those risks sit on the blockchain network level, but maybe some of those risks are more like DeFi protocol level, or even just a risk that sits on the liquidity pool. So those are all different. Those might be called the same risk, but they are different layers, and so they might have different metrics. And if we can associate it with different layers, then we can pull on-chain and maybe even off-chain metrics more easily for those types of risks, right? In general, the framework is supposed to help you be able to divide your risk. So if say you work for a protocol, you just started like a protocol, you don't have that much TVL, which as you saw in Peter's presentation, you might be hacked and lose everything, right? So you want to cover your risk. And in that sense, you would want to say, okay, I have IT risk. How can I break it up? Maybe the smart contract risk, I can cover it with this insurance. Or the front end, I can cover it with this insurance. And maybe my dev risk, I can cover it with a certain insurance, for example, right? It helps you divide those risks and put different kinds of controls or risk transfers to be able to manage overall your risk portfolio. So that's our idea. The other thing that we are also looking for is like, how do we help organizations also look at the less financial kind of risk, right? So these are things like reputation risk, or and these are things like personnel risk, right? So we've talked to a number of different players in DeFi. So we've talked to protocols, we've talked to regulators as well, and everybody has like a kind of like a horror story of something that bad happened to them, right? And not all of this is because I lost the money in the pool, right? Some of this that we heard is, oh, I got kidnapped and someone ransomed me. So then we said, oh, don't you know there's a kidnap and ransom insurance that maybe you could get? So these are kind of things that are actually could be useful if you are, say, starting a protocol or you already have one and you just want to understand what are all the risks that could happen and how do I manage them, right? So then, next slide, please. Thank you. So I said, we are just starting out. So we are still in the early design. So it's the first phase of our project. The idea is that we're going to publish the first draft of our framework. So we will be very happy to get your feedback and comments on how we can improve it. And we also really want to work with organization protocols, with enterprises, with regulators, on how we can build like a good framework and also maybe implement those frameworks to have kind of standards that apply to different types of organizations and contexts. So thank you very much, and we hope to work more closely with you guys in the future. Thank you.
Any questions so far?
Do you have experience launching protocol or managing protocols yourselves?
We don't have experience launching protocols. We are looking more at supporting protocols to help them, from a risk and controls perspective.
You would be then have an advisor role, or how would you see yourself there?
So at the moment with this project, I think we wanted to start an open source project, right? A community project, and work together with all the other teams that already exist that are looking at risk, right? And the idea would be that we would be the main contributors to push this project along to get the framework to a certain level, right? But it's more looking at like a community project. And with working with protocols and stuff, I think it really depends, right? In the end, it's an open source project. Those protocols can take this framework and apply it for themselves. I think big protocols already have risk teams in their DAO that could do that if they wish to. But we could also work with them to apply it to their context and see whether that is useful or not, right? Because in the end, it's good to have a framework, but the most important thing is, does it actually help? Is it useful? Does it actually help you to manage the risk, right? And that's what we want to know. And that's the kind of framework we would like to build.
And that is as well what we experienced when we talked to the protocols. They most likely said, yeah, we have a dashboard. We know how we can analyze the risk metrics, but what should we do? So what is a good control for us? This is something what, it's a question mark for us at the moment. That is where we need more support. And that is what we want to build, like a more community-driven metrics and a framework what can live. And as well, if you are, for example, a company, we will start as well with kind of like a supportive role to explain you how to go into the space and what are your risks when you want to onboard.
So we're also looking at enterprises who want to get into DeFi, right? But they're kind of like scared or not sure how to manage their risk there, because from the outside it looks like, what the hell? Why would I want to go there, right? Aside from the opportunities presented. I think being able to help their risk teams see what those risks are and be able to understand it in a kind of easy risk framework, that helps a lot for those enterprises to understand how much like, they want to step onto the boat, for example.
Question to your number 4, when you're saying you already think about regulatory and compliance frameworks. I assume you're Germany-based, so would you start building your framework based on the risks mentioned in the VAIT, or are you taking like a global first approach and try to slot the very different local risk assessments in later? So how truly global or decentralized is your framework going to be, or what are you planning?
So at the moment, we're looking mainly at the EU level framework, so like MiCA, DORA framework. Those are what we are looking at. So we think it might be a good idea to maybe work with some regulatory sandboxes or something like this, right? And start off at the EU level, not specifically Germany. But we're open to like whoever wants to collaborate with us, right? In EU, just because we are here and it's easier. if there's no other questions, then thank you very much for your attention and time.